And now we'll proceed to question and answers. First off, extreme policies definitely affects all working class families, small businesses, and farmers. Some of the extreme policies that our counterparts, the Democrats, have proposed include Medicare for all. Medicare for all would bankrupt Medicare as we know it. It would cost $32 trillion. And to put that into numbers that normal Americans might be able to understand what $32 trillion is if you spent $43 million a day since Jesus Christ was born. That's $32 trillion, and that's a proposal that the House Democrats have to bankrupt Medicare for Social Securities. Those extreme policies are the policies that hurt working class Americans. The Green New Deal would end farming as we know it. That costs $90 trillion, according to economists. For everyday American, that is spending $121 million every day since Jesus Christ was born. Those are extreme policies. Those are the policies that will bankrupt this nation. Those are the policies that will hurt working class families, small businesses, and farmers. And those are the policies that myself, as chairman of this committee, will never allow to happen. I will also say that $3 trillion in tax increases on small businesses is supported by the other side by expiration of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. Several of you testified about how beneficial they will be. If they expire, it will increase your taxes $3 trillion. So I appreciate the testimony. And also, we don't support defunding the police. Last year was the first year when U.S. businesses faced limitations in the amount of research and development cost they could deduct. It was also the first year where business interest deductions were more strictly limited. Tax reform's 100% expensing provision was a major issue of investment and growth. Unfortunately, starting this year, that expensing provision will begin phasing out. As we look to strengthen our supply chains and compete with China, I'm interested in how these provisions have affected your businesses. Can each of you please explain how R&D expensing, interest deductibility, or 100% expensing have impacted your operations? And would there be any detriment to your business if these provisions were not addressed by Congress? Ms. Couch, we'll begin with you.
Thank you. I'm going to touch on R&D amortization and how that has affected my business. I was developing an app that would help my clients and had to seek out an investor to fund that the R&D regarding the research and development that went along with the app, and he was willing to do the investment because he was able to take the expense immediately against income in other businesses that he owned. And so I believe that amortization really limits investors to invest in companies and startups and research and development on technological innovation, and I believe R&D amortization really hurts innovation and entrepreneurship overall for our country.
Thank you. Ms. Couch, you also raised in your testimony, number 3, I believe, was in regards to the 1099-A, and you said that that limit of $600 has been around since
1970s. I'm not sure the exact year, but
there has been no changes from 1970s.
Correct. So the 1099 NEC now, which is issued to subcontractors for their work, that began at $600 minimum threshold, and that still holds true today. And needs to be raised.
Thank you. Mr. Bergman, how about R&D or expensing or interest deductibility? How would that affect you all?
Sure. Well, research and development is risky. When we conduct a research project, we do not know the outcome. It could be beneficial, it could yield, something that adds value, or it could be like setting fire to the money you invested. You just don't know. That's why they call it research. So, knowing that we can at least expense 100% of these dollars gives me some mitigation of the risk against my taxes. And for capital equipment, for purchasing capital equipment, of course, it's less risky, but there's still some risk. I mean, if you want to expand into something like robotics, well, it's a trial and error process, and you have no guarantee that that machine is going to be fully productive the time you turn it on. So being able to take some of that risk away in the first year as accelerated depreciation is an enabler of taking that kind of risk to grow.
Ms. Winton.
I can talk a long time about this, so I'll try to be as concise as possible. Starting with interest, I really appreciate the fact as a small company that I can purchase equipment and I can expense it because of the size of a company that I have. However, we have to talk about supply chain. I am just one cog in the wheel, and my customers are anywhere from a small mom-and-pop operation all the way to a multinational corporation. And so when you're talking R&D and you're talking interest expensing, I'm building capital equipment. I'm building that factory automation. So when my customers can't write off those expenses, then they're not necessarily going to buy that equipment. They're going to push it down the road because, especially if they're a public corporation, at the end of the day, they are responsible to their shareholders. And we're all shareholders. We all have 401ks. And I want to make sure that those companies are making a profit, because when they aren't, my 401k is going down and my employees' 401ks are going down. But at the same time, I need them to invest in that capital equipment so that they have state-of-the-art facilities. If any of you have ever gone to Mexico, you've gone to our borders, you've gone to other countries, those factories are all state-of-the-art. They're all factory automation. They're all equipped with robotics. It's not just here in the U.S. It's everywhere. So if we don't invest here in our R&D and our innovation, that's what sets us apart. That's what makes us America. And so companies have to have those incentives in order to buy that equipment and to invest in research and development.
Mr. Livingston.
Thank you, sir. Being a small restaurant owner and construction worker as I am, really don't have a whole lot of research and development that goes into our business. Along with that, any amount of our stuff that's taxed and that we pay as a small business, being small business owners, employ 50% of the American workforce, as we all are. Two out of three of new jobs in the last 25 years have been given by small business owners, which in return, an increase on that would include pay cuts, price increases for our customers, and fewer growth opportunities for me as an owner. So with these guys that are talking the research and development ideas and all that, I am a firm believer in that needs to be part of our community. And like Mr. Ferguson said, Kia manufacturers there from our area. If those items don't go into effect and those type of businesses can't put forth effort in the research and development side of it to be able to grow more, then going back to small owners like me would hurt us. Losing community or losing manufacturing businesses and large scale items like that dwindle down to hurt us. So if they can't put in what they need to be able to prosper and grow, it trickles down to somebody as small as me in a town my size.
Mr. Livingston, I know that you're a small business owner. You have one restaurant, is what you testified. You used to have a couple. Is your restaurant, is it a pass-through or a subchapter S or an LLC, or is it a C Corp?
It's an LLC.
LLC.
Yes, sir.
So being an LLC, 199A, which was testified by Ms. Couch and a few others, is a huge tax incentive that expires in 2025 that would drastically affect your business, because let's say your competitor may be McDonald's and it may be incorporated as a C corporation, and their tax rate would be 21%, but yours would be 39% if that expires. And I know restaurant owners have such a difficulty time, and they have such small margins. I hear that all the time from the gentleman from Oklahoma. Since he's a restaurant owner himself, or used to be. So would you say that 199A would be devastating if it expired for your small business?
Absolutely, for sure. Anything that's going to increase where we are, like you mentioned, our margin is so thin, and even now we're having, with just cost of goods going up so high, and being able to stay afloat and having to drop our menu prices, our profitability has dropped drastically. So anything that comes through that charges us more is devastating.
But that provision would benefit all the C corporation restaurants
100%.
if it expired, because then you would be out of business and they would have more business. So helping big business is not what we need to do in tax policy. Ms. Shanklin, do you have words on those three different items: interest deductibility, 100% expensing, and R&D?
So on the first two, I'll recuse myself, just not being a small business owner myself, but I will just say that our stance is that 199A tax provision helps the wealthy and should be targeted to the smallest businesses that are low to moderate income.
Ms. Shanklin, do you have suggestions of policies that would help make 199A better targeted towards small businesses?
I mean, when we think about low to moderate income entrepreneurs, which really are the folks in our network, we have about 85,000 small businesses nationally in our network. Majority of those have less than 10 employees or are solo entrepreneurs. So the way that we think about it, is looking at the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit, putting money back in the pockets so those can be allocated to spurring local economies. But I can definitely send some more information to the committee once I get back to the office.
I definitely would appreciate any suggestions. I don't know of a restaurant in this country that it has only 10 employees or less. And Mr. Livingston, how many employees do you have at your one restaurant?
Right now, 30. 30.
I would consider you a small business, and you should have the protections of 199A. So just a 10-member cap may not necessarily be a good definition of small business, but we need to figure it out to make sure that we don't lose that provision and that it best serves small businesses, and our tax code does not benefit multinational corporations who are taxed at 21%, and you're going to be taxed at 39%. With that, I would like to recognize Ms. Delbene for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank folks for highlighting the R&D amortization issue that was created by the Tax Cuts and Jobs